To power all the devices in my setup, there are 53 individual plugs that need plugged in somewhere. So the challenge was, how do I plug them all in at once, without causing a power outage, and without sucking vampire power? I'll explain vampire power a little later. I'm gonna start at the wall. I have two outlets that power all these devices. One is here, and one is here. Both of these outlets are GFCI outlets. A GFCI outlet automatically switches off if there's a large fluctuation in power, like a surge. You may have seen these on hair dryers. I have 4 thick extension cords coming out of these two outlets. Many of them split up using something called power cord splitters. Eventually 4 cords become 8 cords, and those 8 cords get plugged into 8 different Rackmount Power supplies. What this is a device that functions kind of like a power strip, only it has one switch for each plug as opposed to one switch for multiple plugs. So I can safely route power only to the devices I'm using. I never forget to fully turn something off since the buttons glow when they're on. When I say fully turn off, I mean the system switch is in the off position, and all the possible current from the wall is cut off as well. Cutting the possible current is important for a couple of reasons. It further protects the system from large power surges, much like the GFCI outlet. There's also a fuse built into the rack mount, which offers a third layer of protection. The Sega CD is very vulnerable to even the slightest surge. It does not have an off switch for itself, and has its own individual power cord. If a power spike travels down that cord, it blows a fuse inside the unit. After that, you'll no longer be able to play the system until you solder a new fuse into it. Another reason to cut off all possible power to the systems is that almost all of them consume power even when they're turned off. This is called vampire power. It goes by other names as well. Using a device that measures current, I have determined the worst offenders. The original Xbox consumed 6 watts of power when turned off. And there are many more systems that consume 5 watts when they're turned off. So what would happen if I flicked on every switch, but still left every system off? The total vampire power would be approximately 165 watts, a cost of about $136 a year, if I left it that way for a year. So what if I turned every switch on, but also turned every system on? Then the circuit breaker downstairs would trip. Hopefully. There are many different rack mount power supplies on the market. They are intended for DJs who have a lot of equipment. The kind I have are made by Technical Pro. I have 2 different models. One's a PS8, which has 8 plugs, and one's a PS9 that has 9 plugs. The 9 is much thinner than the 8. They've also released a lot of models since I bought these. I've experimented with the Eliminator E107 as well, but a couple of the switches have broken. I think they're a little bit lower quality than the Technical Pro ones. Plus, the blue lights look better than the orange lights. One of the problems with the rack mount is that the plug inlets are too close together to allow brick plugs to be plugged into each of them, and the bricks hang down from the back of the unit, preventing it from laying flat. To solve these issues, I ordered a bunch of 1-foot extension cords. This allows me to lay the brick plugs behind the rack mounts. Some systems are kind of far away from the rack mount, so there's additional extension cords in this setup. I ended up tying all the cords to the shelving, using Velcro and twister seals. They're also tied in with the signal cords, which I'll get to in another video. That's it for the electrical side of my setup. See you next time.